Hello there, my beautiful souls for today. I hope you guys are having an abundant day, honoring your light, honoring your energy, and an idea that comes up a lot in the realms of behavior change and why it's so tremendously difficult to really embody those changes, right? And there's a lot of other tools that come into place, but ultimately we're going to be talking about a mechanism and an intertwining that will come up on your journey as you begin to change and evolve and step into that highest vibration, that highest truth that you know deep within your heart and soul that is attainable and capable of. And so in your journey, there will come a point where you will experience a die-off reaction. Now, before proceeding, what do you think a die-off reaction is? And so I wanted to share my story that really solidified this concept. And so I've been on this journey for about 4 years, expanding my health, my mind, and a lot of it comes from pain and unconsciousness and wounding and suffering. And that was being reflected. And I knew internally something wasn't operating at the highest standard. It was in my being, in my intuition, that I wasn't rising, that I wasn't ascending into who I could be. And so about a year and a half ago, I went through some gut issues, right? Before then, I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted, right? It could be gluten, dairy, cheese. I'm from Wisconsin, so cheese curds and ranch, beer, all those amazing, delicious, and greasy food for you. I would have no problem with. I could just eat it and I would be fine. And then it took about a food poisoning, SIBO, developing some autoimmune to really go through that journey and that experience. And all it took was one bacteria that was detrimental to the entire system and in a place where it shouldn't be to wreak havoc in your body, to cause chaos. And it was to the point where I would eat like even something healthy like oats or quinoa, and I would experience brain fog. I wouldn't remember the day it was. I'd struggle with recalling someone's name that I just met, what I ate for breakfast. And with it, I couldn't articulate, I couldn't communicate very effectively. It was a very frustrating experience just from the psychological aspect alone, just feeling almost disassociated from my mind. I'm sitting here like, what is going on? I'm young, I'm in good shape, I eat healthy, there's something deeper going on within my system. I experienced joint pain like on my right knee. Oh, it was brutal. I felt like an old man. I was limping around. I couldn't engage in squats, heavy lifting, explosive training. I would be exhausted after eating. Like I would need just to take a nap, rest, relax. I was doing body work on people and I could only do like one session. I couldn't do a lot of the deeper moves or some of my more advanced energy giving activities. I was just utterly and completely exhausted. And then I started to dive deeper and learning, oh, there's something inside me that shouldn't be there. I have to eradicate it. I have to not feed it. I have to not give it its energy, its source, its intention. And so going through that withdrawal process, starving it out, I did carnivore diet for about almost 6 weeks. So no fiber, no carbs, pretty much just meat, eggs, butter, and some collagen protein powder, bone broth. And I remember the first week. Actually, it lasted for about 3 weeks. I was miserable. I didn't want to talk to someone, and all the darkness came up for me, all my shadows, all my insecurities. And that was the process of the die-off happening. It was occurring physically through my gut, through like diarrhea. It was like burning poops. It was vicious. It was brutal as my thoughts. I'm unworthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to make it through this. No one's going to help me. It just took such a dark turn emotionally, hopeless, lost, a lot of anger, and spiritually I felt so disconnected from source, disconnected from spirit. And I recognized that during those moments it was dying. It was not surviving. And so when you go through this die-off period, when everything's falling apart and whatever foreign entity that you have inside you will do anything it can to survive, and depending on how deep rooted the cause is, it's going to be a much longer and more powerful die-off reaction. So you have the mental, this is your thoughts about it, what you're thinking about it, and what is more so conscious now, here in the moment, but also unconscious, what you've accumulated with your thoughts that have formed various beliefs. So you have the mental component, you have the physical, where that's being stored in your body. It could be stored in the fascia if it's really glued, stuck, adhered, chronic tension, chronic pain. More often than not, that is a outward manifestation of a deeper imbalance within the body. It could be the emotions, anger, fear, sadness. And once you start eradicating it and letting it go, it's going to do whatever it can to survive. And it's going to start impeding on all those systems. So you have to rise above it. You have to sit through the pain and recognizing that your light, your greatness is on the other side of it. It is a very uncomfortable process, and it is like that for any method of behavior change, any method of growth and evolvement. And so some questions I have for you guys that will kind of help at least still this process. One, I'd love to hear your stories of any die-off reactions, whether it was healing your stomach, going through that process, various addictions you had to break, various identities that you had to. And as you were going through that process, what things came up for you? What things were doing everything they could to survive, even though they were no longer serving you? And in those moments, did you step into your light, step into the love of yourself and overcome it? Or did you falter? Did you go back to temptation? Did you go to comfort? And this is another question. When you are uncomfortable, those various things come up. How do you comfort yourself? What is your ritual? What are your practices to go down that path? Because if you have a habitual comfort, for example, okay, another story for me, and this was when I was really unconscious and I was feeling such intense emotions. My sexuality was intertwined with this, my mind, it was really deep, and I didn't recognize the gravity of it at that time. And I would binge eat. I would run for like a marathon, or I'd run half a marathon, and then I'd order like a family-sized thing of food. But even though the physical body was like, hey, dude, we're full, you do not need to keep eating, I kept eating, because there was something inside me that was empty, and it was something outside it to make me feel fulfilled. So I just kept eating, I was running. So I'm curious what your stories are of any die-offs and how you approached it, and how do you seek comfort? I mean, it could be food, it could be sex, it could be video games, it could be avoidance where you just completely run and negate it. It could be procrastination. We all have these tendencies, and it's like if you could sit with them, look them in the eye and recognize, oh, this is what I do to seek comfort. Okay. And so the highest calling that you could do is train your body that despite the discomfort that's happening in your field, in your energy, that you will rise above it, that you will breathe fully into it, you will witness, you will watch, and you will honor yourself and choose your highest path, which requires an insane amount of self-love, an insane amount of courage. And that is why the healing journey, being a light worker, ascending consciousness is difficult, because to elevate your soul, it's long-term. It is overcoming short-term gratification, the pleasures of life, to get to the other side. That is how you ascend consciousness. That is how you grow. That is how you evolve. And our society doesn't teach us to do that. It doesn't give us the tools we need to do that in a place of self-love and compassion and honoring. And it teaches us actually to do the opposite. They do not want us to ascend and evolve into our greatness. So you have to be different, and you have to go within and honor the discomforts of life. And this can be trained. These are rituals that you habitually engage in. It's not something you're born with overnight. And yes, some people have genetic predispositions, or maybe they have an amazing gut biome, so it's a lot easier and they don't feel the intensity and emotions. But regardless, it is trained every moment, every day, and it's what rituals are you doing to instill it. So a general equation that I have here that is really powerful and that will help you evolve: discipline doing the things that you need to do that are going to better your life, help you accelerate and move in the direction of your highest heart, your highest calling, and doing it despite how you feel, right? And that part is showing up. If you just show up, that is half the battle right there. And doing the things you need to do. And yeah, some days you're gonna feel like Super Saiyan, you rocked it, you did amazing, you're invigorated, you feel alive. And then there are other days it's like, man, I feel like absolute trash. I feel god awful. I don't want to do this right now. But you know that in terms of your greatness, and in terms of your love, and in terms of your calling and your mission, you can't place emphasis on how you feel. You have to place emphasis on taking action and executing and showing up. And once you start doing that and letting go of the outcome of how things unfold, how things happen in certain time frames, as long as you show up, you do your best in that moment despite how you feel, and then this leads to the next part of the equation, which is consistency. Consistency, 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 consistency. Because in order for you to reprogram, rewrite, this takes time, a minimum, I'm gonna say it again to emphasize the point, a minimum of 45 days. That's from the neurological, that's from thinking where the pathways are even, the old dysfunctional, which you haven't been activating, versus the new ones that you're creating every moment by thinking, feeling, embodying, acting, speaking, seeing it, and living it. 45 days to get to break even point. And so once you get past that, then the new pathways have overpowered the other ones, and then it's going to be downhill from there. But as that pathway and that disempowering ideology, belief, physical holding is eradicating, it will do everything it can to survive. And that's where the die-off reaction happens. And so you have to overcome it. And at each time you do, it breakens, it weakens. And it gets easier and easier and easier. But if you don't fully eradicate it, it comes back very quick. So it's your job to be consistent. 90 days is ideal. And you think about it, all these people with routines and the gym, and my previous self too, I have not been perfect by any means or regards. And the lesson really with my gut is, if I do not heal my gut, I remember looking in the mirror, and keep in mind, I tried a lot of things at this time. A 5-day dry fast, I did a 7-day dry fast. I already did a round of antimicrobials. I was doing things to enhance motility. It didn't work. So I had to start over, but I only stuck with it for 3 weeks. And I was like, oh shit, yep. I need more time for the changes to be embodied. And I remember looking at the mirror in my eyes, I'm like, Hunter, if you do not change, you're not gonna make it. You won't have the resources, the energy that you need to execute. You will perish. And I know that sounds a little bit extreme, but people don't understand where I'm at currently in my life. And really, the pressures and the reflections of where you're at will break you down to your core, to your foundation. But that is such a beautiful moment, because in your brokenness, when you have nothing, when everything has fallen apart and you're left with you get to rebuild into something that's even stronger, more powerful, and more impactful. But you have to be consistent with it. So we've talked about discipline, doing things despite how you feel, consistency, a minimum 45 days, 90 is ideal. And then overcoming the suffering, overcoming the pain. And that can be trained. And so some of the tools and tactics that we could do to do that, and one of my favorites is dry fasting. This is one of the most intense fastings there is. It encompasses no food and no water. You're not putting anything in the system. And because of that, all the comforts of your body are eradicated. You don't have that necessary support. And so you're going to be exposed to the things that come up for you in your shadows. And the shadows make themselves known when you are in a weakened state, whether that's weakened mentally with depression, anxiety, your mental health is on the decline. It can be in a physical, such as a trauma, an injury, a sustainment, emotional, You could be like really triggered, not have a lot of groundedness or centered within yourself, or spiritual, just that disconnect from God and those prayers, and you just feeling lost. That is when the shadow comes in. But if you habitually look your shadow in the eye, you feel it and you embrace it, you know everything that's going to come up. You know all your insecurities, you know all your weaknesses, you know all your disempowering beliefs and ideologies, core wounds. You know what's going to come up. You felt it, you listened to him, and you looked him in the eye and said, guess what? I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you for being a part of my life. And you've given me my greatest gifts in life. I have so much love for you. So much love for you. That will help you be the catalyst for your growth. Your shadows are the tools towards your light. Once you overcome them, love them, integrate them, release them, it leads you to your destiny. It leads you to your fate. And so once you habitually know them, nothing new is going to come up. You've explored them. And you've been in states of discomfort that no matter how uncomfortable you be, you've trained yourself to remain grounded and to breathe through it, to feel it, to witness it. And a couple other modalities that this could be cold plunging, right? Because that is a very shocking experience to the body. You're in the freezing cold, you're shivering. How do you show up? How do you handle yourself there? You breathe. You don't label it, you don't think about it, you don't react, you just witness. And that could be training, the strengthening of your body, pushing it, right? And that the muscles screaming, stop, stop, this hurts. And the mental's like, no, I can keep going. I have more to give. And so it's a continuous process, but it has to be deliberate, and you have to have the routines to cultivate it. So my homework for you guys, what is one thing you could do for a week that makes you very uncomfortable? To start, I think a beginner level, skip breakfast. Don't eat till 1 o'clock and don't consume any calories. You can have like black coffee, tea, or whatever, but just skip breakfast and see how you respond. See how you show up and see what you're trying to escape it with. How do you escape? And that's going to provide so much awareness of your shadows, guys. So I wanted to thank you for taking your time, your energy, to watching this video and recognizing the die-off reactions, how it happens, how it's integrated in a lot of the different levels between the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, and how it will do everything it can to trick you and to survive. And it's your duty out of self-love to rise above it. As always, choose your light and empowerment. Blessings.
Okay, done.